This is America after the jobs left and the crowds moved on. Towns that once had schools, stores, and Sunday routines, now sitting quietly with no one around.
Number 5. Garnet, Montana. High in the mountains of western Montana sits a town that once believed it was going to be the next big thing. In the late 1800s, gold was discovered here, and Garnet exploded almost overnight. Miners arrived by the thousands, followed by saloons, hotels, stores, and all the noise that comes with people convinced they've finally made it. At its peak, Garnet had electricity, a school, and enough businesses to make it feel permanent, which, historically, is when gold towns make their biggest mistake. When the gold veins began drying up, people didn't panic at first. They told themselves the next strike was coming. Then, winter hit. Roads became impassable, supplies ran low, and the reality set in that Garnet was isolated, expensive, and no longer profitable. Families left quietly, one season at a time, until the town emptied out without any dramatic final moment. No disaster, no explosion, just the slow realization that it wasn't worth staying anymore. Today, Garnet is one of the best preserved ghost towns in America. Wooden buildings still stand, furniture still sits inside, and the silence feels almost polite, like the town understands why everyone left, even if it wishes they hadn't. It's the kind of place that proves abandonment doesn't always come from catastrophe. Sometimes it comes from simple economics and a very long winter.
Number 4. Thurmond, West Virginia. Deep in the mountains of West Virginia, along a narrow stretch of railroad track, sits a town that once moved the entire region, even though most people today have never heard its name. Thurmond wasn't built for comfort. It was built for business. In the early 1900s, this small town became a critical railroad hub for coal shipments, pulling in money at a pace that felt unstoppable. Banks, hotels, restaurants, and businesses packed tightly along the river, serving railroad workers, coal executives, and travelers passing through day and night. For a town with fewer than 500 residents, Thurmond handled massive amounts of cash. At one point, it reportedly had some of the highest per capita income in the entire state. Trains came and went constantly, and the town never really slept. Then, the trains stopped needing it. As rail technology changed and coal operations shifted elsewhere, Thurmond's importance quietly evaporated. Businesses closed, hotels emptied, families moved away. There was no dramatic collapse, just a slow realization that the town's purpose no longer existed. Today, only a handful of people officially live in Thurmond. The streets are empty, the buildings are worn but standing, and the old depot still watches trains pass through without stopping. The town feels frozen in the moment it was left behind, like a pause button was pressed and never released. Thurmond isn't abandoned because it failed. It's abandoned because the world moved on, leaving behind a town that once mattered far more than its size would ever suggest.
Number 3. Picher, Oklahoma. On the surface, Picher looked like a success story. It was rich, productive, and essential, the kind of town that powered America without asking for attention. Beneath it, however, was a problem quietly piling up year after year. For decades, Picher sat at the center of one of the largest lead and zinc mining operations in the country. The mines produced massive wealth, but they also produced mountains of toxic waste known as chat, fine, powdery piles that surrounded the town, filled playgrounds, and even paved driveways. At first, no one questioned it. Jobs were steady, paychecks were good, and the town kept growing. But as the mines shut down, the damage they left behind became impossible to ignore. Heavy metals seeped into the soil and water. Children began showing dangerously high lead levels. Sinkholes opened without warning as old tunnels collapsed beneath homes. The government eventually declared Picher a federal disaster area. Buyouts followed, families were relocated, schools closed, houses were left behind not because people wanted to leave, but because staying had become unsafe.
By 2010, the last school shut its doors, and Picher was officially abandoned. What remains today is a skeletal town surrounded by towering piles of toxic dust, slowly reclaiming the streets and buildings below. Picher isn't empty because of time or neglect. It's empty because the ground itself became poisonous, a reminder that sometimes the cost of prosperity isn't paid right away, but it always comes due.
Number 2. Kennicott, Alaska. Far from highways, cities, or anything resembling convenience, Kennicott existed at the edge of what most people would consider livable. It wasn't supposed to last forever. It was designed to extract as much value as possible and then disappear. In the early 1900s, Kennicott became one of the richest copper mining towns on Earth. Massive red mill buildings towered over the valley, processing ore that helped electrify America. Workers endured brutal winters, isolation, and months of darkness, all for wages that made the hardship feel worth it. For decades, the town functioned like a self-contained world. It had hospitals, schools, recreation halls, and strict rules that kept life orderly in an otherwise unforgiving landscape. Everything depended on the mine, and when the copper ran out, there was no backup plan. In 1938, the company shut the operation down and gave residents very little notice. Workers packed what they could carry. Trains left. Doors were locked. And just like that, Kennicott was empty. Alaska's climate did the rest. Cold preserved the buildings instead of destroying them. Machinery remained where it was shut off. Paperwork still sat in offices, as if someone planned to return after lunch and never did. Kennicott feels less like a ruin and more like a town paused mid-breath, a place where abandonment wasn't chaotic or emotional, but efficient, scheduled, and final. Number 1. Cahawba, Alabama. Once envisioned as a future powerhouse of the South, Cahawba began with ambition that far exceeded its location. In the early 1800s, it was named Alabama's first state capital, positioned at the meeting point of two rivers that promised trade, growth, and influence. But the same rivers that made Cahawba attractive also sealed its fate. Seasonal flooding was constant, unpredictable, and destructive. Streets turned into waterways, homes filled with water. Disease spread through stagnant pools, and residents slowly realized the land itself was working against them. When the state government moved the capital elsewhere, the town lost its reason to exist. People tried to hold on. Plantations kept the area alive for a while, and new buildings appeared in bursts of optimism. But floods kept returning, each one erasing a little more of the town's future. After the Civil War, Cahawba never fully recovered. By the early 1900s, it was effectively empty. Today, Cahawba is reclaimed by nature. Brick walls sit wrapped in vines. Graveyards rest beneath towering trees. Foundations disappear into tall grass, and the rivers still rise and fall exactly as they did centuries ago. Cahawba doesn't feel abandoned in a dramatic way. It feels absorbed, like the land finally took back what it never meant to give up in the first place. It's a quiet ending to a loud ambition, and a reminder that not every town loses to time or money. Some lose simply because they were built where they never should have been.